Miller,
Yes.
I am so excited that you agreed to this.
I am so excited.
I feel honored, honestly honored.
That's very sweet. Well, I'm honored that you reached out to me.
What?
Yeah, this is like the birth of your podcast, and to be one of the early guests is like, it's just very lovely.
Thank
it means
you.
a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Miller, can you remember how we met? Do you remember like the day we met at all? Because I do.
I don't remember the exact day, but I 100% remember meeting you. It's just so weird sometimes how emotion kicks in. Because right now I got a little bit emotional.
Aw, Miller.
Yeah, no, it's true. God, it's weird.
Let's talk about that. Where's that emotion coming from?
I don't know. I think like human to human connection and contact, I feel like is super special and rare when you like connect with somebody and you get just this sense of goodness from somebody. And 100%, I got that from you. I had just moved back to LA. I'm from here originally. You know, I'm doing my dance project and I'm at Millennium, and I had already been there like a couple of times, and no commentary on, you know, those who work the front. Some are wonderful, but you like really stood out, and you were just so lovely and so wanting to be helpful. And I remember we followed each other on Instagram like almost immediately. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of weird about Instagram with like following people I don't know. And you're like, no, come on, let's like be friends. And I'm like, okay.
I just felt the same thing that you're saying. I felt that energy. Like when we met, I just felt immediately like I'm supposed to be in this person's life. Like we should be friends.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I was a little pressuring to be like, let's follow each other on Instagram. And then I felt honored because I realized you weren't really following a lot of people, but you had a lot of followers. And I thought that was sweet. I thought I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool. And then I got to like look you up on YouTube and check you out and see like all your past history and everything, because I was inspired also by your story about wanting to come to Millennium and get back to dance and stuff, because I started a little later with dance, and I did feel that energy of it's too late for me, but you are somebody that is proving that it's never too late.
No, yeah.
For people that don't know what your project is, can you just give a brief overview of like what you have going on just on YouTube at least?
Yeah, of course. Well, I was a dancer many years ago, decades and decades ago, danced professionally, and then I quit still while a teenager. And I decided to see if I can return to this crazy dance stuff in my mid 40s. And that's what I'm doing. And as we know, Millennium is kind of the place to be. And my experience, I was in Orange County when I had this idea, and I was at Millennium OC, and then just kind of realized maybe in a few months, like, to take this project to a different level and me as a dancer to a different level, I need to be in LA. So I came back to Los Angeles, but I hadn't even lived here in the Valley in 19 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's so cool to be back home with my family nearby and everything. And then that's where I met you, and you were like, and I remember even talking to you about being a work study, because you were a work study.
Yeah. I really wanted you to be a work study because I felt like that was, for me at least, I was always looking for the cheap way to move around LA. And so I knew that like if you had to take a lot of classes, it just seemed like a good idea for you to be a part of the work study program. Yeah. I think that's why I pushed that probably harder also than I needed to. But I also think that you would have made a great addition to the work study team of also being, you know, behind the scenes in the office of like a dance industry thing as well. So
I agree. And that was when I had moved here, that was on my radar, the work study thing. And the universe just said no.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't have.
They had other plans.
Yeah, exactly. And I realized soon thereafter, oh my God, I couldn't even have done this, I don't think, being a work study because of XYZ.
Right.
And it's worked out the way it was supposed to work out. But how was your work study experience there?
It was great. Honestly, I wanted to do it for a really long time, but you had to be like 21 for a while. I don't know if that's still the case now, but so I kind of had to work my way up into figuring out how to get noticed enough to be picked. And I think I just started to talk to more people and realize that you need a connection more or less to be in it. But overall, the work study program was great because I was able to interact with choreographers and teachers and have more of like a one-on-one get to know you. And it helps me at least because I wasn't necessarily like the best dancer on the floor. So it was a better way for me to be able to make those connections in like a different way where people were just getting to know me rather than like me as the dancer. So.
And you did the certificate program before that?
Yeah, like when I first moved out here, I did the certificate program because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I should probably get some like direction on this.
Yeah.
But you did the certificate program as well, right? Us
Yes.
being like, we're not going to talk about dance, but talked about
I
adult.
know a little bit. It's good. I remember you told me when you did it, we had a very different experience, which is going to happen anyway, regardless. Yeah. When I did it, there were 35 people in the program. When you did it, there were...
I feel like it was only like 15.
Okay. I thought it was even less than that. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe. I really don't. Now I'm like, so long ago, but it really wasn't. It was like 6 years ago. Yeah, it was probably like 10 to 15 people maybe. So yeah, it definitely wasn't as big as like that seems like a whole class, basically.
Yeah. And a lot of those workshops were like a class.
Yeah, which is like fast and
all of the things.
Yeah.
But it was a really, really good experience ultimately. Yeah, yeah.
Do you feel like you got to know any choreographers like well enough, or like did you get those connections or build any friendships through that program?
Not through the program, but certainly taking at Millennium with, I don't know, I can think of like 4 or 5 different teachers who I took from all the time. They never did a workshop though. And I loved them and they were my regulars and certainly learned a lot from them.
Yeah. Millennium has a lot of value.
Yes, it does. And I want to also like clarify, because I know I said I don't follow a lot of people and I don't even know how that even comes across. But I think the reason I don't, if I could just explain for a second, is just, I think for me, social media, like it is for most people, is just such a distraction.
Oh, absolutely.
And just like the more people you are supporting on there, and it's definitely a weird thing now in this return to dance journey where I do want to support like everybody, but I know my brain gets so crazy distracted. It's just so many more things on my feed and all of it. And then it just becomes, I don't know, it's an interesting thing.
That's healthy though.
Yeah.
I think people can learn from that because I think we've gotten into an age where like everybody just follows each other and the different generations too. For me, Instagram is the thing. Instead of being like, hey, can I have your phone number for us to stay friends? It's like, can I have your Instagram? Because then it's a little less, I don't know, there's just some element of you're able to still see what this person is doing, but not necessarily be as close immediately. But I think that that's a very healthy and smart thing that you're doing. And I think more people should do that because they feel guilty and they feel like they need to follow people, I think, because they're following them. Like I've had a lot of people like unfollow me if I'm not following them back. And it's like, it's not that serious. I don't think it's that serious. So I think that it's a healthy dynamic that we're able to see, like, I don't really need to be, not that you don't want to see people, but you don't need to. And for your own mental health are valuing, like, I have to put myself first in this regard.
And it really is about, like you said, prioritizing mental health. And I know that like if someone's going to follow and or support my Instagram page, hopefully there's a reason behind that. Something I'm doing is motivating and inspiring. Hopefully they like what they see. And so for me to then follow them right back, like it feels disingenuous somehow. It's like a follow for a follow, and that's just not the game that I want to play.
Exactly. A follow for a follow.
Yeah.
Speaking of mental health, let's jump into, maybe back in your past. Let's get out of the
Look at you right now, podcast host, like circling back. Speaking of mental health, it's very impressive already. She's got the goods already.
Thank you, Miller. I appreciate it. But let's talk about mental health, because I feel like the time that we did meet was during COVID, and that's when I was going through, like, that's when I started to kind of have my spiritual awakening and my, like, coming to myself and realizing things about myself that I'd never realized or noticed about myself. And we started this trivia where you would come and be on the trivia on Zoom. It was so much fun. And we would have long talks after with the wine and our Zoom. It was so much fun.
Oh, I missed that actually.
Yeah, that was really fun. Maybe we need to bring that back.
Yes.
Everybody stay tuned for our trivia night on Zoom. I feel like one of the things that I came to a realization at the time of COVID was that I do like women, and I didn't understand whether I should be like bisexual, pansexual. Like there's all these labels out there. There's all these things out there that I have struggled with. And I know we've talked about how you came out a little later in life. How did you come to the realization that it was time to, be who you are and move through the world with like clarity of who you are?
My story is, it feels extreme because I feel like I came out a lot later in life. I came out at 37. That's when I told only my sister and my mom a couple of months after that. And I really didn't come out to the masses, if you will, friends and all that, until I was 39. So that's very, very late. I just finished reading a book that is required reading for all gay men. Specifically, it's called Velvet Rage. It's very, very powerful. And sometimes I feel like I don't even, it's almost like I lived through that weird time of like literally living a double life and splitting my personality and keeping up pretenses. And it's just so hard and strange for me because I consider myself a very authentic person, someone who does not lie.
As in, you always thought that about yourself?
Yes. Yeah. And so here I am though, like lying. Well, I don't want to use the word lying, like withholding a big part of myself, literally since I was a child, knowing probably since the age of 9 or 10. So to just go about my life, like I'm a good person and I don't lie about anything. And yet, oh, here's this one part of me that is, very much like shut down. So I feel like, I don't know. It's hard to explain like how I came to the realization that I need to now tell people. If you want to know the truth, it almost sounds like gossipy-ish in a way. I was almost kind of caught. I was in the closet. I've often said if it were not for the internet, I probably would still be in the closet. It was the advent of AOL chat rooms and Craigslist.
Oh, wow.
Like horribly shady as that sounds. Although I just, for ego purposes, maybe for me, it was like, when I tried to meet people, it was never about hookups. It was always about like, I want to find a boyfriend. And the gay stereotypes of randomness and variety and all of that really scared me. So I was always trying to meet people, with that in mind of, oh, I want monogamy and I want this like private relationship. And there was even a time I think I was like really thinking I could marry a woman and have a guy on the side. And if nobody knew about it, it would be okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where my brain was. And then I had a girlfriend for about 9 months and I realized, oh, I could never lie like that. That's the most awful thing in the whole world. But you just try to, when you're in this place of being in the closet and hiding who you are, you start to somehow reason your way through things like, oh, I could do this. And so I was in a closeted relationship with someone and I took a picture of him I lived in a little studio and he was on the floor wrapping Christmas gifts. It was the most innocent picture ever. And it was in my phone. So long story short, one time my sister came over and it's just kind of our relationship. She was like going through my phone. And I remember thinking, oh shit, like I wonder and that's the worst thing too about being in the closet is you have these secrets and like you don't want to get caught. So you're always covering your tracks. And I was
sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like it sounds exhausting.
It's unbelievably exhausting. And I'm just so glad that I ultimately got through all of it and that I'm healthy. And because I'm not saying this to be hyperbolic or anything, but I really thought that I would die really, like young of cancer or something, because that sort of stress you're putting on yourself day to day, living in utter secrecy and not being who you are and not seeing that realized is just devastating what it does to a person's body. Our body, our cells it's always reacting to what's happening in our emotions. It's all connected, the mind and the body. And I knew that even when I was pretty young. So anyway, my sister happened to go through my phone and then I was like, oh, let me look at my phone. Sometimes I take shirtless pictures, being like silly, which honestly was not even that true. But I'm like, I got to get my phone back. I was afraid.
You're trying to figure it out. Like,
right.
Please just give me my phone back.
Yes. And then I went through my phone and I guess this is like kind of my coming out story. Anyway, I saw there was a picture of this guy there and and he could have been anybody. But the thing is my sister and I are close enough that she would know my friends and I knew that she would not know who he was.
Right.
And I'm like, oh shit, there's a picture of him. And so I deleted it quickly. And so I gave her back my phone, but I knew immediately that it was probably too late if she already had seen him.
Right.
And I gave her back my phone and she was going through it and her energy changed. And she didn't say anything though. My mom was over as well and she had no idea what was happening. And her energy changed. And I was like, oh shit, she knows. That's it. And it was just the sheer fact that I deleted it too that made it so much more.
I guess like you were trying to cover it up and make it be like, oh, well, that wasn't even there. That didn't happen. Like that. Yeah.
So we eventually like hopped on a Skype or something a couple days later and she wanted to talk and I'm like, I know what's coming. So I already crafted a whole lie on who he was. And she just kept pressing and just kind of kept saying, because, at this time I'm like 37. There's no girl. There's no dating ever.
Right.
Clearly her brother, what's going on? And she just kept saying, you could tell me anything. And eventually I just kind of said, okay, it's true. Yeah, I'm gay. And I honestly, again, I never, ever, I do not know where it comes from. I don't know where that staunchness of being so in the closet.
Yeah.
Why was just so important to me? I do not know. It's one of those things I'm trying to unlayer myself. But what I do know is that that was my shame, and that me coming out so late is a way to hopefully serve others, that they can come out about something for them that is their shame, and they can share and hopefully help others in that process.
Yeah. And to touch on that, do you have, I know you said you were kind of like not ignoring it, but, trying to figure out how to cover it up and keep it secret and keep it that. But if somebody is like, okay, I don't want to keep it secret anymore, but I don't necessarily want to come out immediately, what advice could you give somebody who is going through this time of, you said shame, so maybe there's this shame-based fear. Like, how did you get out of that shame to be able to now feel comfortable, like even going forward and talking about it right now?
I think it's just it's a day-to-day process. In some ways, I still feel like I'm coming out. You kind of unlayer it like an onion at all times. I mean, there are, like right now I'm in a relationship. I have a partner. It's been 3 years. But before I met him, like by the time I came out, which I guess technically was 2012, and then I met my partner in 2020, I had tried to date and meet people, but just never, I don't know, just never found luck, I guess, in that respect.
Yeah.
And so that's like 8 years of being out, but feeling like I'm not out. Because what does out even mean? It means you're dating somebody, but I wasn't dating somebody. I was never at a party with friends where they could see me with a guy. I was never in front of family where I could see through their eyes me with a guy. So you're constantly like, coming out. So
and well, to touch on what you just said, I think that that's an interesting dynamic that a lot of people who may be in the closet experience, of like questioning whether they even are gay or not gay because they're not in a relationship, or they're not in front of people, or they haven't told anybody, or X, Y, and Z. So was that a reason that you came out later in life?
To unpack my brain, it's like, I'm sure super complicated.
Right.
It could be something as seemingly trivial as I was an actor and I was pursuing that since I was a teenager. And I just thought, well, a gay actor is just not going to get work. Can't be out of the closet as an actor. Right. That's obviously changed so much in today's time, which is amazing. But I thought that was a little bit, I think, as to why I stayed in the closet.
Yeah.
I had like an image of myself that I wanted to portray to the world as this straight person.
Right.
Why was that so important to me? I don't know, but it just was. I think even also being a dancer, like when I was very, very young, I knew that was a stereotype for boys. And I'm like, nope, I don't fit that stereotype. Like, look at Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. There's lots of straight dancers. Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily outside sources that made you feel like, maybe a little bit with the actor situation, but there wasn't necessarily this big doom of like somebody in your family or somebody like your friends or anything that was necessarily homophobic, or you thought you'd be exiled or something like that. There wasn't that. That said, if I were being honest, I 100% had fear that I would be letting down my family. I grew up super protective of my mom. And even when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I was diagnosed with OCD, like real OCD. I think a lot of people always are saying, oh my God, I have OCD, but they really don't. They might have some tendencies. I really had OCD to the point where it was like I was up all night long at 14 years old until 3:00 in the morning, like switching, the lights and the faucet and checking the stove and the front door. And it was really bad. And thankfully I know it sounds crazy, but I was able to knock that at like a really early age. But I bring that up because I didn't know the term OCD at that time. I called it, or else my mom will die. So everything I did, all of the compulsions were, to protect my mom. Well, if I do the light switch on and off for the next hour, X amount of times, my mom will not get in a car accident tomorrow. Which just shows that since a young age, like I've been worried and protective about my mom, for example. And so I really felt that me being gay or just coming out of the closet would really hurt her and like devastate her. And I knew that her love for me was so extreme that no matter what, she would love me. I knew that intellectually, right? But the, immature part of me, the part of me that was irrational. Maybe your ego a little bit. 100% ego was involved. Was, why would I want to hurt her? In my family, we went through a lot of very traumatic things. And, my father had just committed suicide, and here's me as a teenager and understanding my sexuality, and now I'm going to now come out and make life perhaps even more complicated for people.
Right.
So it was a way of protecting them, I think, in some way, and myself. And I mean, this is, it's layered.
So after you came out, I guess technically to your sister at first, what then happened with your mom, if you don't care sharing? Like, were you able to come out directly to her? Did she just kind of start to see you with men, or?
Oh, no. My family, no one's even seen me with a guy until my most recent relationship, my only out relationship. So basically I told my sister, and my mom was already starting to kind of ask questions a little bit, like, I'm now in my mid-late 30s, something is up with my kid, whatever. And so she actually said that she went to therapy herself, trying to understand, why is my son, who she thinks is so great, like, why doesn't he date? And she told me later that her therapist even said, do you think he might be gay? And she said no. And it's funny because they say mothers always know, but my mom was like, I had no idea.
Wow.
She really did not know, even though I grew up a huge fan of Judy Garland. But it was funny because I had stereotypes like that.
Right.
And I was also like a huge baseball fan. So it's kind of like, and what does that mean also, by the way, that you can't like certain music because I just think the whole thing is silly.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely has changed. Absolutely. That I hope that the stereotype around like guys dancing doesn't mean that they're gay. That's not, to me, that's not true at all. And you can do whatever you want to do regardless of your sexuality. And
that's one of the good things about, I think, as much as I on my own Instagram, I don't diss. It's more just like an objective. So it's an observation really about, TikTok dances and how they've found their way into dance class and how choreography has kind of changed. What I do love about this social media time of dancing is that it's cool to dance. The boys are doing it and it's cool, and they want to get together with their buddies, and it's just like, it's awesome. And there's no sort of, cloud over it that's like a sexuality or something.
Yeah, which is great, because moving your body is great for healing and being in tune with your body, and like knowing that you can go to a dance class and like work out, and that's your workout, and that's a fun workout and things like that, and paying attention to your body. And I think, to bring us back to something that we talked about a little bit before we started recording, was that you did mention, I believe, that right after you came out, you had more like stomach issues or something, right? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes, definitely. I wanted to answer your last question, which I realized I didn't finish, about my mom.
Okay.
I came out to my sister, and then it was literally 6 months later. Well, it was on Mother's Day, actually. We all got together, and my mom just straight up asked me, do you think maybe you might be gay? And it's so crazy. You know that thing? I got the chills right now. It's so funny. You know how you can have 1,000 thoughts at the exact same time, and you're aware of all of it, but it's only just a second. But I was aware in that moment, if I hesitate, that's me coming out. If I don't hesitate, I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? Then, because that would have been my old answer. It's so funny. I had this memory right now of being literally in 6th grade and trying to tell my mom that I think I might be gay.
Oh, wow.
In 6th grade. I remember that. I remember her looking at me kind of like, oh, isn't that cute? Because she was like, why do you think you are? And I was like, well, because, sometimes the boys will, and I won't say the word, but, the F word for that. And sometimes they'll call me that because I was already doing like gymnastics, and I would do like talent shows where I would dance, even though I hadn't yet studied as a dancer, but I would just do like things. My mom would be like, well, that's not what gay means.
Right.
But I didn't tell her the truth, though, which was that I had these feelings toward boys that were in the book that you, Mom, introduced me to when I was in 4th grade about how to make a baby. Like, I wanted to be intimate, is what my 11-year-old brain understood as intimate. I wanted to be like that with a boy. I didn't tell her that part, though. So anyway, on Mother's Day, she asked, and I told her, and she was crying, but it was like tears of joy. And, she was very, very supportive.
Amazing.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I will say, though, and this isn't like, because my mom is human and she has like dreams for her child, and she's of a different generation. She has been nothing but the most supportive. But she did admit that year after I told her was a difficult year for her to like process it. And that's fair.
Right.
And that's totally fair. And I love that she was honest about that.
That's beautiful. That's great. So you guys have a good relationship.
Oh yeah, we're exceedingly close.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is.
No, it's a beautiful thing. I'm very, very lucky that my family and I were so close.
Yeah,
so to answer or to go into your next thing, I've never had like an issue with my gut, my stomach ever. And I moved to Vegas after I came out because I just wasn't ready to be out in Los Angeles. I felt like I knew too many people and it was just a little scary to me. So I wound up moving to Las Vegas, which is a whole other story. And I don't know, about like 6 months later, like my body just shut down. Like I just couldn't, it was like my gut was unable to process food anymore. It was just so bad, constant pains in my stomach. And I just kept thinking, I don't feel more stressed than usual because my life, I think, was kind of stressful, but it wasn't more stress. And it was actually a very dear friend of mine who pointed out to me, she said something like, that's what happens because something happened with her that was similar as far as like an ailment. And she said, sometimes when you're suppressing something, your body is protecting you. And then all of a sudden you're out now for me. And I'm thinking, I'm free. I can be myself. It's amazing. And I'm feeling happier than ever. But my body was like, no, you didn't get to suppress all of that and just expect me to be chill with it.
Right.
Now
right.
I am ready to unleash all of the crap that you just held in for so long. And I had never, ever thought of it like that. That was very, very powerful. And I went to lots of doctors and nutritionists and got colonoscopies, just all the things.
Yeah.
And they basically said I had IBS and, you look that up and it's a life sentence. And I would not accept the fact that it was a life sentence. And so I spent the next, year just literally eating steamed chicken and rice. It was the only thing my body could literally tolerate. And I was on a mission to cure my IBS. And what worked for me may not work for others, but I found different protocols. A lot of it was brand new science, which nobody heard of at the time. Now it's become very common, like low FODMAP. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, I don't think so.
It's a low FODMAP diet is one thing. I forget what the acronym is. It's like these long words, but it has to do basically with sugars and whatnot that are in the healthiest foods, like fruits and vegetables that literally destroy the gut of a lot of people. Like people can't eat broccoli and garlic and whatnot. And so this was by Monash University, I think in Australia, they discovered this low FODMAP thing. And then I was like, and this was brand new at the time. And I was like, I'm going to try that. And then whatever, in a year, honestly, perfect, completely cured myself. To this day, I'm on certain probiotics and things that I do. I'm always taking care of myself. But thankfully, it was not a life sentence for me. I was able to knock it. And I think if there is a lesson here, it is you just have to believe and trust that you can fix yourself and not like Western medicine put me on medication immediately. And that did not help. And also affected, I think, my brain chemistry because I was kind of unhappy. I'm like, screw this. And it was this sort of thing of fight, but also don't be glued to the result of needing to be better immediately and surrender and let go. And it's tricky to do. I'm still as you know, I'm currently have an injury and I'm trying to heal. And it's like, I'm doing the same thing. I'm working hard to fix, but also trying to surrender and trust that it's, it's all going to work out.
Yeah. Wow. That beautiful story. It's so mesmerizing to watch you talk and be so passionate about things. It really is. Nice. It really is. To go back on this injury that you have now, what are you doing differently? Or I guess not differently, because it seems like you got yourself out of that kind of body, mind, coexisting together situation with healing your gut and your IBS. And what are you doing now? Is that different? Are you doing the same kind of technique of working hard, but also kind of working on your mind and fighting to make it better? Or what's your process like now?
I think I'm doing all the above. And, because I'm human, I have bad days. I don't want to be this person. I feel like a lot of times, there are these influencers and people who are, quote unquote spiritual, and you look at their life and it seems everything is amazing. And I don't feel like that's instructive,
Yeah.
Do you know Mel Robbins? I adore her because she says wonderful things and she's super inspiring, but she's often talking about the crap in her day-to-day life sometimes.
Which is real.
It's so real.
Yeah.
So I want to be real here and say that
Please.
Last week, I had a really bad day. I woke up and my leg was hurting me. And I was like, are you serious? Like still, like, why is it so bad today?
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating. And I was down. The difference though, well, I don't know if it's a difference, but I'm self-aware enough to check myself and be like, okay, I can allow myself to have a bad day, which is a thing. And that is actually its own kind of healing. And that's good. If you can embrace, and I have to admit, that's a flaw for me. Sometimes if I'm having a difficult day, and I'm not productive or something, I get really hard on myself, as opposed to like letting go and embracing the bad day and just going with it. Okay, so today is going to be a day of just watching television. Who gives a shit? Tomorrow is a new day and that's it. So I have to work on that still, for sure. I think though, what I'm trying to do right now with my current injury, like with my IBS back in the day, is I'm just constantly seeking treatments and protocols. I was in Mexico for all of June, sold my car to make that happen because I'm determined, like, because this injury is more than just pain. It is like, it has taken me out of the thing that I am here to do. Like, I literally quit my job. I relocated to LA. I'm doing all the things for my dancing, and now I'm not dancing.
Yeah.
So it feels like sometimes like the burden feels pretty extreme. That said, I'm constantly, every morning, I am meditating. I'm reading books on spirituality and working. I'm currently doing laser therapy, and I'm always looking for something new and different, because I feel like even if it's a placebo, which hopefully they're not, as long as I'm like making strides forward, I feel like that helps the brain as well. Believing like, oh, you're doing something, so this will help you heal.
Yeah.
And really working on the mental aspect of things, of just surrendering and trusting and knowing. And I really do know this. It's so crazy because it's so funny how like a bad day happens. Like, I'm aware that somehow this is all serving me and that the universe wants me to experience this because it'll make my journey back to dance that much more inspiring, hopefully, because I will get through this. But in the moment, sometimes it's like, it's easy to let go of that or to forget.
Yeah.
And so I'm always bringing myself back. I'm always checking myself. What about you for situations like that? Because I feel like you're pretty good at, like, especially since the pandemic, as you mentioned, like, you will work hard to, you know, to check yourself if something feels off.
Yeah. I think the one thing recently that has changed is I have been doing a lot of meditations and being more clear, of asking for clarity and being like, am I on the right path? What am I doing? And a lot of the times in my meditation, I was just hearing, slow down, slow down, slow down. And because when I moved back to Raleigh, I just thought I was going to be living there for like a year. I was like, oh, I'll move back to LA, or I'll move to New York next, or I'll do this or I'll do that, because it feels like the grind is very serious. You got to keep going, especially in like mid-20s of like, get your career where you want it to be. But I was being told, like, slow down, chill out, like, just like learn how to be alone, learn how to cook, learn how to do a lot of things that I was suppressing, like heal myself and heal some anxiety and get to the root of a lot of my issues that when I was in LA, I didn't really have the energy or the like capacity to sit with my thoughts and work through them. And a lot of the things that were literally holding me back. And so I think after being able to slow down, I then, you know, I started doing The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. And I'm on like week 6 right now. And that's why this podcast is being brought to life, because I'm realizing like I do have something to say and I do have value and I do have like a way to be creative, and it doesn't have to be through dance. It doesn't have to be through being on stage. It can be in producing things or being able to bring people into a space where they can share their story and being able to have these conversations and be authentic and be real. So I definitely think you have to be able to tune into your body and your mind to be able to know what to do next. I think a lot of us wait for other people to tell us what to do or listen to society and what they are telling us to do, rather than being in tune with your body and knowing like, maybe I'm not supposed to be somebody that's like working 12 hours a day and doing this and coming home and doing this and being busy, blah, 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 blah. It's like, maybe I am somebody who's supposed to be more calm, more chill, providing safe spaces for people, like something else. Maybe it's not what I thought it was supposed to be. So I think that it seems that the injury here with you is actually helping you, like you said earlier, come up with these other ideas that maybe you wouldn't have originally thought about if you were dancing. And now you are maybe able to reach more people by this injury, and like using this injury to kind of propel you in maybe a direction that you didn't think was going to happen.
Yeah. And we talked about that, I think, off of the mic. So for anybody listening, if they're, like, what was that? It's just pretty much because I'm not dancing right now, ironically, I went public with my journey at the same time. It's the way that it worked out. It wasn't planned that way. I've been holding onto footage literally, for 3 years, basically. Anyway, I didn't anticipate I wouldn't be dancing at this time, so it forced me to go in a certain trajectory on my social media that was almost like, it was just different. It's more of a talking head. It's a lot less dance, and it's me talking about dance, which I didn't anticipate for my social media. I couldn't have. And it's clearly resonating, and it's reaching people, and it's like, okay, this is another universe thing. Universe was like, you can't dance right now, but we're going to still make your project work, and you can still inspire. And it really taught me, oh, wow, I didn't even know that. This has shown me that I have a voice, I think, in this dance world, which I don't think I would have known had it not been for the injury.
Yeah. The universe was like, we need you to use your voice right now. Like right now, that's what's going to resonate with most people. And unfortunately, I could talk to you for hours, but we have 4 minutes left.
Is it really? Oh my gosh. Wow. I guess
we'll wrap it up. Maybe next time I'm in LA, we're going to have a part 2 because I'm sure everybody will want to hear more because we could literally talk for like 4 million hours.
Yes. As we do.
But thank you for sitting down and chatting with me. Again, I feel very honored to be somebody that you were able to experience a podcast with.
It is my honor. I'm so excited to be here, support you on your journey, and just major congratulations to like just the artist's way and making this happen and following through. And it's a really big deal. And I recognize you.
Thank you. Love you so much.
I love you too.
All right, everybody. See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.